All right, we're live.
Hi. Hello, everyone. How are
Hey,
you?
how's it going?
How's
Hey,
everybody? Good.
I'm
Hi,
back.
All
I'm
right.
Jonathan. Uh,
Hey, hey, Jonathan. How's it
Hello.
going?
How are you? With my host, my co-host Ariel. How are you,
Hey, what's up,
Ariel?
guys? I'm doing well. How's it
Very
going,
good.
Hal?
Very.
I'm all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't
Amazing.
know.
Amazing.
Caught up before the
Awesome.
show
Great.
started. Before
I
Yeah.
the
know,
So,
intro.
right?
everyone, welcome to Mecha Pew Pew, episode 2, on Thursday at 9 every week. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, I just want to
So,
say hi to everybody as well on
hello.
YouTube and Twitch. I'm monitoring the chats right now, so hope to get you guys obviously all the questions and all that stuff into the show because we want to incorporate your thoughts. As John mentioned, we're streaming Thursdays, 9
Yeah.
p.m. EST. So what do we have tonight, Jonathan?
We have tonight. Tonight is a great show. I mean, beginning of the series of 0079, we're going to review I think end of month, we're going to try to review every series one by one or every section of series. It depends on the format. But tonight,
Right.
reviewing 0079. Let's start from the beginning, right? We have amazing guests off. As our first guest, tell us more about yourself, Off, and why are you an expert in 0079?
And also, Derek,
I
how's it
think
going?
it's
Welcome.
the. Oh, hey, Derek, you made
Hello,
it.
Derek.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry about
Great.
that.
Sorry. Yeah, Half, go ahead. Let the people know who you are, and then we'll switch over to Derek.
I'm a gum. I guess I'm like a sci-fi model builder. I'm on Instagram at hey_BC. I think Gundam, like Mobile Suit Gundam, is the first TV show I watched as a kid where I could actually stomach it. But then like I just grew up watching it over and over. So eventually you just get really into the show. You learn about like behind the scenes, the cultural impact. I think those are very important things to learn as if you're very obsessed with a show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing,
Nice.
amazing. Thank you. And we also have Derek from Vancouver as well.
Hello.
We met Derek, I mean, a few years ago, I guess, through Gunpla communities and stuff like that. Been chatting for years and months and, shooting the shit.
Time doesn't even matter anymore once you're online.
No, that's
I
it,
think.
right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And
The-
I
the
met Derek.
concept of fun is different for sure.
Yeah, around 2018, I flew out to Vancouver. I met up with the folks in Vanpla, both Hayden and Derek here. Very, very awesome guys. So
Yeah, super
welcome guys
involved
to the show.
super involved in communities in Vampla, right? Both of
Yeah.
them. So that's great. So Derek, tell us more about yourself.
So, how I got into Gunpla? Okay, I actually didn't get into Gundam the traditional. Well, I guess it could be traditional to some people. I started in the toys and the model kits because I liked the anime back when I was growing up in the 80s.
Which anime was that? Which anime?
Gordion, Voltus 5.
Yeah, Voltus 5.
Mazinger.
Sorry,
Voltus 5.
represent.
Mazinger. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows this one, but I also grew up with Megaloman and Macross.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that got me into it when I was.
Oh, you
growing
mean Robotech?
up. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, fuck
Yeah,
off.
exactly. Robotech.
I can say fuck, right?
I got
Yeah.
confused by that. Right? And then I actually built my very first Gundam was when I was in Hong Kong. I got the original Zeta Gundam that can actually kind of transform. And that kind of got me to it. My cousin gave me his little Gundam book, and I was like, okay, what's this stuff, right? And the toys were the kit was pretty good because I liked building model kits back then. And then later on, as I got more into the traditional model kits, I saw what Gundam had evolved into in around the early 1990s. And I was like, holy shit, this is fantastic. What the fuck have I been missing all my life? So then I had to do a lot of backtracking and figure out what the heck I missed. And around that time, Wing just came out. Wing came out here in YTV. And I've already got all their model kits, and I'm like, what am I missing? And I look back, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm missing a fuck
Yeah.
ton. So
And
I
that's
started
what's great
going
as well,
back. And exactly. And back then it was like, holy shit, and then just basically digging through it, and it just sucked me in.
Yeah, exactly. And what's beautiful about this is that you started at a time where history was being written, right? The 80s and the 70s. That was the
Golden age.
start
Yeah.
of the cultural phenomenon of
That's the
Gunpla.
golden age of
Yeah,
anime.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
the golden.
I was
That's
gonna
not-
say
I
too, because
I
like
was a
you don't
little kid back then. Yeah.
you don't get that, like, oh man, like the super robot then was just like a staple of the otaku community in regards to science fiction, because you get all these like other shows that were like puppets. For example, I remember Fireball, I remember Thunderbirds, and all that
Thunderbird,
stuff. That
yeah.
was the closest thing you could get to like sci-fi, like mecha, like vehicles, if you will. Like
Those
sci-fi
are like
vehicles.
pioneer shows. For
Exactly. And when
picture.
the streamline of cartoons and mecha, definitely Gundam, Macross, all the super robot ones, Daimos, shout out to the Filipinos for that one. But yeah, like tonight we're going to be talking about the one of the granddaddies, the Mobile Suit Gundam original episode, which started in what year was it?
1979.
79.
Yeah.
Became 0079, coincidentally. The years on that. So for you guys that are just tuning in, welcome to the show. The topic tonight, as John mentioned, is our end of month kind of anime and series talk. It's going to be called Seriously. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
We're going to talk
Are you
about that?
fucking kidding me?
Are you seriously?
Are you serious?
I've been getting a lot
Free
of
on the puns.
I'm gonna have like a fucking stroke, dude. For real.
Before we get too far into the series itself, everybody, spoiler alert! You've been, you had 40 years to at least watch it, and hopefully you have at least seen some of it, if not all of it, by now. So again, spoiler alert for those guys. If you have not watched it, go watch it because it's actually not really that good. But we're gonna be talking about it, so it's gonna be fun.
It's worth mentioning. That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The first part here, and we were just talking about this, I think what would be really, really cool is if you go roundtable and describe in your own way the Mobile Suit Gundam, the first anime series in a very, very bad way.
Oh god.
Let's start with who do I want to kill here first? Let's go with Derek.
Oh,
Derek on this one.
wow. The guy that actually has nothing to say.
Breaking the ice.
Well, how do I summarize it? Let's see. Well, it's actually just quite actually meta. Like it set the tone for everything. Boy jumps into robot, kicks ass in robot, unbelievably and poorly, basically, and ends a war.
That's
all by
a
himself.
horrible. That is like
Beautiful.
A horrible
That is
brief
stellar.
summary.
Stellar.
We should
Yeah,
have
it's
cards
like
next time we do
review
this,
right
John.
Oh,
I want to have
6
cards saying like,
cards.
yeah, like 6. And we're gonna judge everybody's bad
Yes.
for. And to me, if I was going to judge that one, that one's a good solid 7.5. Really hit the stealing part of that one, and kid wins the war. So that is good. All right, let's continue this. Jonathan, you're up next, man.
All right. So there's a young chancellor / prince who's been betrayed at a young age. The protagonist of this series. He tries to fight the war and trying to win back his respect. And then there's a young brat who jumps into like a high-tech weapon and helps a tyrannical faction, a government that's trying to take down the independence of this small noble country. And basically this brat destroys everything in his path and kills everyone that he held dear, and basically wins the war, and the bad guys won the fight of independence.
So Earth Feds won. The bad guys. Got
Yes.
Hey, yo, you better watch that mouth.
it. Speaking of mouth, Hayden, you're up next, man. What do we got?
Zoomer overtakes a militaristic boomer ship and beats old people up, and monarchies are stupid. And the show's about human empathy and class struggle.
Oh
Okay.
All right, that was good. That was summarized well. John, I'm gonna give you like an 8 8.5 on that one. It was
Oh,
a
thank
very
you.
lengthy,
Thank you.
good one. That will be tied with Hayden here because, like, you know what, very concise and to the point. No BS around this guy right here. All right, let me take a stab at it.
Yes. I want to hear that.
Privilege.
My one.
Privileged kid steals daddy's hot new whip. Fights space Nazis.
Should we put a spoiler tag like right now?
Oh, he was. He did. He mentioned.
Oh, okay,
I did spoiler already. Yeah.
Okay.
So spoiled kid steals daddy's new whip, fights space Nazis, and disregards friends for own self want for happiness, which is actually very conceding because he he was never happy. Even in all future episodes, he was like miserable. So
I love these.
And there is also our hero, blonde Aryan, stature for the neo-Nazi space Nazis, is actually out for revenge, like Casanova style. No, wait, who was that guy that got imprisoned and who wanted revenge?
Is it Iron Mask?
They did a movie for that. No, not Iron Mask. It wasn't Zorro, but it's like that revenge plot kind of thing. Hides behind a mask.
It's like old
Count of
boy.
Monte Cristo. Thank you. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Guy wears mask and everybody does not know who he is. Super Clark Kent moment, and turns out he was actually, awesome. That's all I got.
Great.
Dude, I lost a lot. I don't know what the fuck you were saying halfway through.
Yeah.
Awesome. So did I do it badly? What's the score on that?
I'll give you a
guys?
7.5.
A score on how bad it is?
Yeah.
I think a good 8 on 8 bad on 10. Yeah.
Derek, what do we got here?
I say with health 7.5. You're on there with me.
All right. So it looks like Jonathan placed. Okay, let's continue on. 0079 was the year Mobile Suit Gundam war between Earth Federation and the Zeon Republic. Is it the Republic of Zeon?
It's basically the rise
Republic then became a principality after independence.
Yeah. So what we did before the show, we had a chance to connect with you guys and kind of just go over some of the key topics. We have here some really cool moments. I'm getting a 6 from Meg. Thanks, Meg.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Good one, Meg.
So do you guys want to go through some of the key moments of the show? Because at the latter part of this, we're going to be talking about a little bit more about the history, Tomino's involvement, Clover's involvement. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff in the show, guys. So hopefully you guys stay tuned for the whole thing. We're going to be
the real life historical moments that happened before the show, that what led to it and stuff like that. So,
okay.
So do we start by doing small synopsis / key moments of the show?
Think so.
Let's go. Go ahead with that.
Yeah, just shoot your stuff.
Awesome.
All right, so let's try to describe the key moments in sequence. So there's the Amuro does science scene. So that was like the opener. Your protagonist, the protagonist is like half naked in his room, and he's like putting some kind of like met stuff together. Probably
he's just like an otaku.
No, but that's it. He's building an actual. He's fixing his arrow, like a Turing test passing robot, like you also was saying.
Yeah. Turing test passed robot that could like roll, or it could climb up the staircase by recognizing
by
that
hands.
There are obstacles.
There's
fucking
hands.
insane for like
There's feet.
15-year-old kid, man.
And it can bounce.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Does it have weapons? Do you guys know if Faharo has weapons? Like built in like freaking
it could. I mean, it's smart enough to learn how to use the weapon, probably.
I mean, the Haro reappeared in what? Gundam Seed?
Yeah. It's basically Amuro's like Kira number 2.
Yeah. So during this time, there is obviously a takeover with Sion trying to not takeover. There was a reconnaissance mission that went south real fast
with slim denim jeans.
Slim denim jeans.
I was watching the trilogy movie, and I was watching it with Derek, and then I was watching it with a friend who's never watched Gundam, and he was like, "Dude, slender denim jeans." I'm like, "What the hell? I've never noticed that." But it's. I don't know why Tomino did that. I think that was like.
I think it's like maybe advertising because he wore Levi's. I don't know.
I was watching it, and it's a hot outfit these days. Like I think it's retro, right?
Slim denim jeans.
Well, no, but I think if you modernize it, I mean, like the jean jacket and like it's pretty cool. Like the color matching.
I have a theory that it's because like the satellite states in the Soviet era really liked like jeans. But I don't know what era that was. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I remember people saying like, "Oh, they really liked jeans back then."
Mm-hmm. So going past that again, funny moment because like that reconnaissance went south fast. My question on that scene as well: why are the mobile suits disassembled? Like they were transporting them.
Well, the core fighter system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, was that the only reason they could have? I don't know.
No, but
It just
mobile-
felt
mobile
weird
suits
that they were.
basically- they were
what they
ships,
had
right?
there- yeah, sorry.
They're anti. Oh, go on.
Right. So what they had there was Gundam and the gun tank and the gun cannon were prototypes to fight back against the Zeon's weaponry. Side
Right.
7 was supposed to be a neutral colony, but they were secretly doing dev for Federation to develop this new weapon. Zeon got wind of it, and that's why they sent the recon mission to figure out what they were really doing and if Side 7 was truly neutral or not.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's
But
why
that's
they
the thing.
found them at that stage, various stages, and then mostly it's apart. They don't have it all fully assembled, and they needed to get it out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah. So the
But
problem was
why
not that they
was
were. Oh, so basically they were anti-ship because ships were winning the fights back then, right? It was a battle of spaceships, but then they needed a quick, nimble, not suit, but a mechanical device that could be destroying ships easily. That's why their mobile suits, their anti-ship weaponry. And because Zeon was advancing so fast because of Dr. Minovsky, well, they had to, answer that, right? They were mass producing GMs like no tomorrow, while Zeon was research and developing like prototypes and whatever.
Like
so
big armors, kind of like
GMs didn't come until much later into the game.
but
then, at the start, if we're talking about the start of the show, right? The start of the show was everybody like Minovsky was there already because they had to use ships and fighters to fight each other because all it does was just fools around with the radar and electromagnetic waves. But all the Feddies had at that time was no GMs, but they had floating coffins called balls. Because that was their maintenance stuff, the maintenance things to maintain the stuff in
They
space.
strapped the bazooka.
So they just strapped the bazooka or whatever they could, and they basically were floating coffins, right, out there, and that's what they had to fight with against the
full
Zaku's,
productions of the
Zaku's, right? Because Zeon leapfrogged over them. So now they're trying to. It's basically you watch Gundam, you watch Federation do catch up.
Yeah.
To that point.
So. Now, Side 7 got blown up because of that little battle there. The white base narrowly escapes, or the Trojan horse, if they want to call it, or dub it that way.
So, in terms of key moment, was Zeon wrong to invade Side 7 as part of like a reconnaissance mission? I think they weren't wrong. The treaty said Side 7 was neutral. So
I think conducting military actions is wrong. Like that violated the treaty. It's like a DMZ, right?
Yeah, but it's also like I think that scene was supposed to illustrate like Amuro's like newbie kind of like starting point because he didn't know that like the reactor when he blew up the Zaku that it would cause like.
Well, we're going a little too far. We're a little too far.
No. It's Side 7 blown, right? You're talking about colonies being
first.
Blown.
He found the Gundam. He went into like the bunker and he's like, "Oh, my friends are out there," and blah blah blah.
You're talking about Side 7 being attacked. Okay, I was talking about Side 7 actually being blown up by.
We're around that.
Yeah, it's still the first episode. Yeah.
So mainly, Amuro gets into the bunker and he's like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here. I got to go help my friends. Got to go get my stuff." And basically, he gets out of there and he finds a mobile suit. Right? No, I think he finds a manual first. Finds like the manual, like the one with the V on it.
And starts reading it because finders keepers.
He
finds everything. He found the Gundam. He found the manual. Like
nobody mentions, but Amuro can do robots, right? So he understands how it works, and it was his dad's stuff. So he's been like snooping around a little already. And...
I would say like in the origin manga, he was already like toying with his dad's like creations already. He's been like looking through the files before he even like got out of that like stinky room in the first episode.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like kind of like a prodigy genius kind of thing.
I
don't think it's highlighted enough, right? He's just in his room and
he also might be in the he might be also in the spectrum though.
Yeah, I mean that
a lot of Newtypes are. I've noticed that a lot of Newtypes are. they bite their like they have like a lot of
They have fidgety
kind
mannerism.
of mannerism. Camille has that as well.
Yeah, and so does 4. And so does 4. Okay, so Side 7 blows up because the reconnaissance definitely went south. That triggered a whole bunch of stuff. Number 1, a neutral colony got blown up. We have presence of both Earth Feds and Xeon in the same site. So that's like, man, that's just a catalyst for it. I think that was a good start because like you need a tipping point before anything starts. What do you guys think of what transpired after that? Like what kind of like issues could have been avoided if that didn't happen as well?
Well, if they stuck to the original plan saying just report back and not actually fire something, but who was the happy trigger finger? It was like either Slim or Denim.
I thought it was Gene. I'm not really good at this, but I remember he was a really rash like guy who was just like, oh, Char fucking did this, I can do this too for Xeon, right? And he really wanted to chase that glory, but then he died.
Like a punk.
What a punk ass man.
So with them escaping, so the white base now escaping. The white base is filled with civilians. The captain is like on the dying rack, and
that's it. Okay, he wasn't the captain, so the captain is there, and then someone had to take over.
Yeah,
he went to the sentry area, and then what happened was Zaku, I think, fired a shot, and then shrapnel went into his body, and it protected Ryu, the kind of big guy test pilot, core fighter test pilot, and that's why he was on his deathbed.
Yeah. So we have Ensign Bright Slap, Mega Slap Bright in charge now.
19
he's
years
like
old.
6 months in. He's 6 months in the military.
Oh. So it's not really like an adult slap. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's spoiler alert. Someone gets slapped. So it wasn't really an adult slapping a kid. It was like almost like a big brother slapping like a smaller brother.
If you call
that's why the white base is always talking about that, like the drama in white base, right? It's all about just like young adults and teenagers living together, going through this war, and that's what made it so like captivating for people.
Yeah.
But so Amuro now is a designated pilot for this. He didn't even want to, and that was kind of like the first arc, the first couple of like you know. I'm going based on the trilogy, so like the first arc of the movie, he's just like, I don't want to pilot it, wah, and until he got slapped because everybody's dying.
That's it. Like, and at some point he was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a killer. I don't want to be like responsible for that. But then non-action, you realize from his point of view, non-action is worse than action. Like if non-action people die, action people might not die. Right?
I think that I feel a lot of empathy towards him though, because he literally piloted a Gundam. He killed like 2 Zakus. He like boarded up most of the Operation V's like material, boarded it onto a ship. He got out of the colony somehow with the white base, right? And like he did all these things, and he was just like mentally exhausted. Remember, he didn't sleep, right? And also Amuro doesn't eat well either from the get-go. So he's mentally exhausted, and he doesn't want to like. There's the famous shark kick.
And then this is and then that was after Shark kicked his ass, or basically basically kick his butt, because it was to show that hey, an experienced guy in a lesser suit can still kick your ass. In a more high-tech suit. And
it made Amuro probably feel like incompetent. I'm pretty sure he was like kind of like an egotistical kid, right? Like he's really good at whatever he did. And he was always talking about like, oh, the Gundam's ability is what made it good or something like that. But he was really like full of himself for like a little while there.
And another thing too, Char already he already has his own storyline happening on all of this that we didn't really get.
He already made it. He's already what is he, a lieutenant?
He's a legend. Yeah, he's a lieutenant. He's a legend. Even at the mere mention of his name, the captain was like,
the Battle of Loom.
We're gonna get the fuck out of here now. Now.
So just before we proceed, I do apologize. We just dove right into it, and we have all these images as talking points. So we're going to be going on to this one. Thank you, John, for organizing it. This kick is definitely one of the most infamous scenes, because like this thing is a cultural kind of like almost a staple, because like you see this being repeated in other series, or like it make reference to in like certain, I wouldn't say memes, but like in Japan anime culture, especially mecha, the shark kick is very iconic. Why do you think that is? Like, what led to this kick?
I think that firstly, it does represent the purpose of the mobile suits, right? The mobile suits is mobility, agility, and being nimble. And I think instead of like just shooting something, he goes for like a melee attack. That represents like everything that the mobile suits are for, right? It's just to quick and nimble. And I think that's pretty cool too. The full representation of the purpose of the Gundam, of the mobile suits, I guess.
Right.
I have an answer, but that comes from my otaku sensei from when I was living in Japan. He explained this picture to me. To him and his friends in Japan, this kick represented and basically obliterated every trope back then in the late 70s, because back then the formula was all nothing but super robots. You get into that machine and it can wipe everything out, right? It was from Mazinger, Robo, and all that stuff. They all have, you get into that machine, you're invincible.
Yeah,
you can beat everything. This image alone says was the antithesis of every mecha show to that date.
Oh, really?
You have a guy who is a veteran in a less performing suit, right? And he's running rings around this kid in a prototype kick-ass suit. His one rifle beam shot to Char, he's gone.
Yeah.
He knows it, right?
It was OP.
It was OP as fuck. And guess what? Char ran rings around him and kicked his ass. That's why that kick was so iconic, was because it was the antithesis of everything at that time.
Yeah, to reiterate what you're saying, it's basically good wins and bad loses. But in this thing is that maybe there's gray areas and it's a spectrum instead of being a black and white story, right? It's like maybe the bad guys can be good, maybe the bad guys can win, you know?
Well, the thing is, again, it's very, very perspective and relative to perspective. Both sides think they're right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're just like going based on I think a Western mindset that Earth Federation's representing, the good old what's it called, Allied forces versus neo-Nazis, Zeon, right? But again, without knowing full well what the background is, the rise of the Zabi family, Char's revenge, everything that we're seeing from is just a perspective of this kid and the Trojan horse and their carrier pilot who's just trying to survive. So it's kind of weird that the story, like we're falling into like the story that we have to feel sorry for them. They're like the underdogs, henceforth they're the good guys, right? So anyways, that's like a whole different meta story altogether. But Half, what were you gonna add to the kick here?
I was just looking at some of the comments. One of them said like, "Oh, it's because the beam rifle couldn't penetrate the Gundam's armor," but I think we were clearly talking about like the iconic shot of this. This is just
they didn't have beam rifles. They had like just massive bullets, right? Beam rifles. I don't think they had enough energy in their reactors to shoot, but they have the heat axe, I think. But
it's just to show that Char was just a way more competent pilot by like a long stretch compared to Amuro.
He touched his crotch with his foot. Like you don't do that to anyone, unless you really are OP at AF. But
confidence.
Okay.
Confident.
Oh my god.
Nice.
All right. Bright slap. We were just talking about that. Let's continue on with this one. The bright slap. The slap that was heard throughout the world.
Well, he's like a Newtype creator, man.
Yeah, he's a Newtype creator, right? You get slapped by Bright, you're guaranteed a Newtype.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's a wake up call, right? It's a thing that all the Gundams. Do you have a video?
Is that just on repeat? Oh no.
No,
he says an iconic line here. He says, he says, "Not even my father hits me," and he's like, "I don't give a shit."
Oh, he did raise fist. He raised his fist though. He was
I want to see that again. It's like I want to one more time. No.
I read the comments here.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. He slapped him twice. He slapped him twice in that scene, right?
Yeah. And then he's like bitching about how he needs to go and pilot for everybody's safety. He did raise his fist. Yeah, he did try to defend himself. After the fact, he got woke He got he got one.
Beautiful.
Oh my god.
But it's
Oh,
true.
it's
Is
just-
that the thing is that if like you're trying to, there's a brat that's just like, no, I don't want to do this. And blah, blah, blah. It's like, what do you mean you're not going to do this? If you don't do this, we're all dying. Like it's
Yeah.
What is this meme video? Who fucking made this? Oh my god, what a fucking embarrassment.
I wanna freeze it on where he actually got slammed. Like right here. So okay, let's analyze this face right here. First off, it hasn't set in because you don't see that red thing. If this set in, that's when he realized, and I think that's where the new type it grows over time. It's a metaphor saying that like you're gonna get hit with this powerful, abilities, but it will last a lifetime long of like what do you call it?
Well, pain and
PTSD.
suffering.
I think it just had to be like a running. It's just like a running gag that they did over time.
Oh my God.
But like, yeah,
Okay.
but that actually
Judo
like
punched him back, and
Yeah, that's it.
ironically, he's the strongest one.
so what happened with Ariel was telling me about the fact, what if Admiral never got slapped? With like
Ooh,
things would have been
yeah.
way different. Like
Oh, he would have been killed, and then we had another fight.
yeah, that's it.
We would only have Shars the new type.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. We had
Wolf
Shars
pilot.
a new type. Lalah wouldn't have died, and we got a new pilot, and then
Lala would have fucking
slapped
whooped
him,
Earth
and
Daddy's
he would have-
ass.
Yeah, that's true. That too.
Lala is like the
Oh, man.
prime, like she's like Godzilla, dude. If
Yeah.
they were all like monsters, yeah. Or
And-
she's
That's true.
Mothra. I don't know. Like, but she's definitely like, We'll talk
So-
more about Lala later.
Let's
Oh,
talk
no,
about
this
this
is really
scene right
sad.
here.
Okay,
This
so-
one is a sad one, right?
Yeah,
So
what the
he
subject that we're
lost
going
a lot
for?
of oxygen. Yeah. Okay.
The subject we're going for is Amaryl's parental issues, and I think that
Yes.
stemmed a lot of things. I think his whole personality. I mean, like when psychiatrists they're in movies, they're all like, "So what's your relationship with your father?" and stuff like that. Well, that
Yeah.
basically define all of Amaryl's personality, I believe. Where I think he's trying to satisfy his dad, but his dad is a little like he's not there anymore, right? He lost it, but why?
In I think the novelization, it was implied that like Tem Amuro got into like an affair, and that's why he took
Okay.
Amuro to space, and they got like a divorce or something like that. But not in the TV show.
Yeah.
I think the TV show though, obviously he's very neglected, right?
Yeah.
In the
Well,
origin
even the
manga, he's like
opening
going through his
series-
dad's stuff just to kind of get a type of connection with
Yeah.
him. But their last interaction before this scene here was like really cold too, because he was like, "Dad, is it really worth saving the mobile suit instead of saving the civilians?" And then he's just like, "Get into the fucking ship, man. Like, I don't have time to talk to you. Like, fuck off, bro. All right.
And I
I don't
think
care if
that
you're my kid."
that was solidified even from the beginning of the show because, like, number one, he doesn't know where his dad is half the time. He's at home,
Yeah.
and what's her name walks in. It's like he didn't even eat.
Mhm.
Who made that food for him? That's another question
Yeah.
of mine.
It had to be.
I think it's Frabo. Either Frabo or
Bravo,
Lady.
yeah.
Frabo?
Yeah, she brought him
Had
lunch
to be.
every other
Yeah.
day or something.
So
Yeah,
we
he
all
doesn't
know.
eat, so.
One thing probably not a lot of people knew, and I think someone mentioned it as well. It's like that Amuro is Canadian.
Yeah.
And,
It
and
got
his-
retconned to
and-
be Canadian.
it
A
was
lot
retconned to be
of
Canadian, yeah.
iterations, but
Yeah.
most of them is implied that he's either in Prince Rupert, BC here,
Yeah.
where I am right now, not where you guys are.
Well
Um,
then,
Suck it. It's possible that he's in like Washington too in another iteration.
Yeah.
But yeah.
but he's definitely like from the North American side, obviously with the features. and all that
definitely,
stuff. But like,
definitely, yeah. West
So-
Coast.
let's talk about his mom though, because like his mom did not really show up until what, or mentioned even.
After Garma died, it's spoilers.
After Garma kicks the bucket, he sees
and sees
his
his mom.
goes and
Yeah.
sees his mom.
So he has
Yeah.
like
She's complete pacifist. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she
no violence.
also
nothing.
that's like a really good episode too, because it illustrates like what her image of Amuro is and who he is becoming and will become. And
Right.
it's just like she was pleading like, Amuro, please be the good boy that you were, when I remember you as, right? But Amuro's obviously like frustrated, like you don't know what the fuck I've been through.
Yeah, that's it.
I had to pilot my dad's fucking like last creation. I don't even know
His
where my
death
fucking dad
machine.
is.
And I watched his corpse
machine of,
float into space, right after
like,
I made the hole.
My Gundam is technically like the last, you know, fucking frontier for Earth strategy at this point. Like, do you know the weight on my shoulders, woman? Like, damn.
But it's not just that. Like, the
And you talk to your mother that way?
That's exactly what she probably would say if Amuro actually said that. But it's very Japanese. It's like he chooses to say nothing, and then he just goes, and Bright just goes like, oh yeah, no, we really like Amuro. He helped us. But you could tell she was like devastated.
Yeah.
Speaking of women, we've mentioned a few women already. Faubrow, we mentioned Lalah, we mentioned the mother figure. What's her name again? I forgot her name.
Sailem.
No, not Sailem. Mother's name.
Oh
shit! It's Sailem.
It's Sailem.
Shoot, I can't remember his mother's name either.
It was something weird. It starts with like an anime, I believe.
Yeah, it was like
she's not important. She's
not important. Important one.
No, but it's very important
That's
to mention. It's very important to mention that she's not important. You know,
right.
The thing is like, what? She abandoned him. His dad abandoned him, and it's very important to the personality of the protagonist. It's the fact that he's been abandoned all his life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, as the viewer, we're very angry because we saw what Amuro's been through, but she hasn't, right? So I don't blame her for any of this, right? I'm just saying it for comedic value, but I feel bad for everyone involved. That's the whole point of this fucking show, right? Like that's why it's so good.
It is a very sad if you don't get the whole context. And I think what I liked about the show is the context, depending on which POV you're going for, right? Speaking of POV and context, go on, John.
So basically, after that, the white base travels back to Earth at some point, and they do a few operations. I think they're just rolling around. They're trying to get back to Jaburo? Are they going back to Jaburo? I think
they're trying to go back to Jaburo. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and then along the way,
Jaburo. They were trying to make their way to Jaburo.
They have like many conflicts, and then the Shars keep following left and right. And then I think along the way there was like in the series there was like a monster of the week type of trope where like every single time they had a different mobile suit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were evolving. So the first one was like, there's a Gawk, and then after that
that was a bit later when they were getting closer and closer to Jaburo.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And they were fighting off, and like a monster of the week, new mobile suit from the Xeon, and then at some point, I think in the desert, was it desert after or before Jaburo?
Before,
exactly.
Before.
Perfect.
The desert is with Rama Ral.
Exactly. Okay. Perfect. Now he leads perfectly.
Don't forget Matilda, right? Like Amuro's. Crush.
Yeah.
Right.
Crush on that.
That was short. That was crushing. Very crushing.
Yeah. So there was a refueling. What is it? A replenishing ship that comes around, and the captain is a nice woman, and basically this 15-year-old falls in love with a mature woman, and that's just been very nice to him for the first time in his entire life almost.
Yeah, it's the first time where Amuro actually like salutes. When she goes in, he's like yes, I'm gonna impress her, right? That kind of thing. Very like teenage young boy love. Yeah.
And at some point they hit the desert and they fall into a very important man.
Hang on, I was trying to find the Matilda one, but this is the other one. Hang on. Mm-hmm. So that people have I would definitely salute this one as well. So it's like, is this the statue representing?
It's the figure. Yeah. I have that one.
Yeah, that is Matilda.
That's the mega house.
If you I don't know if anybody remembers this TV show called Train Man or Densho Otoko, right? It's basically about an otaku getting a girlfriend and stuff like that, and you'd actually have his friends when they have the figure of Matilda, they'd salute her, kind of thing. She became that iconic. It's hilarious.
That's such a otaku.
Yeah, it so is.
Let's speaking of saluting. Let's get back to Sailem here, because again, one of the major characters.
So basically, that's in the desert. They fall on. So okay, let's start introducing Sailem. Sailem is a random crew member of the White Base. It starts that way.
Is she random though? Is
No,
she,
but that's
is
it. That's
she
it.
random?
Along the story,
Yeah.
you okay? Spoiler alert! You learn that she's actually Char's sister, right?
Younger.
And I think
sister.
this
Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
But this
What's
is
her name?
revealed.
Artesia?
Artesia,
right?
Artesia.
That's her real
Artesia.
name.
No,
Yeah.
Artesia. That was Artesia Mass. No, wait. What's her first name?
I don't know. Her last name's like Daikun.
Daikun.
because she's
Daikun,
royalty.
yeah.
She is royalty. Was royalty. But yeah.
Well, when she was living with in France, what was the? No, that was Sailem. She never changed her third name. Char changed to her third name. Yeah, like it was
Casval?
Casval,
and
Edouard.
Artesia. I think it's Artesia.
Yeah, that's Artesia because it was Casval,
Artesia.
Edouard, and Char. But
Yeah.
she went directly from Artesia to
Yeah, she didn't have
Sailem.
like
To Sailem.
Yeah, that's it.
Sailem.
So there's a key moment that always like not triggered me, but always wondered. So at some point we meet Rambarol, right? Rambarol is a high-ranking officer of the Xion army, and at some point he falls. I think he's trying to infiltrate the white base, and he falls face to face with Artesia, and he says something along the lines. Okay, so I watch in dub and in sub and in Japanese translated, and one of them is I think he says, "Your Highness, what are you doing here?" And then I think in sub you went Princess Artesia or something. And the thing is that she was never a princess. It was never a monarchy. It was always a
Yeah, I don't think it was a monarchy at all. They had
no, it
like,
wasn't. It was it was a government. It was not a dictatorship, but like a. I think they were elected. Yeah,
it was Republic of Xion, wasn't it? I mean, her father was like talking about these cool new things called Newtypes and how those people are kind of cool.
But there's no real monarchy, as in like there's no
there wasn't real monarchy.
But so that's why I always wondered in this series. In this sequence, why did Rambarol call her like princess or something? And my Japanese friend said that it is probably because in the Japanese respect, the way they said it basically it was a respect thing, right? It wasn't like a. And then I think the dub and the sub is actually wrong to directly translate it.
Like a hierarchy, you would say.
Yeah,
someone that is
that actually makes sense because the stuff that her father did enthralled and caught the attention of everybody in space, right? And so by that standard, his family gets elevated to this another level.
Yeah.
So in Japanese society, when the family gets elevated to that level, everybody gets treated with that respect.
Yeah.
So there's a comment here from Ragalol. He's saying because she was close to Prince Harry as they can get. So there is a kind of hierarchy, but it's not. It's unofficial royalty, I guess.
But the thing is, we're comparing to Earth monarchy, but it could be a brand new space type, sci-fi type of monarchy /
space royalty. That's all we're gonna do.
I would go with your Japanese friend's explanation.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes the most sense.
And so basically, Rambarol has always been like I think that this is the place where they introduce the fact that Xion might not all be bad, and they might actually have like some human trait to a protagonist, where you see Rambarol having like feelings and having love and doing not in terms of logic, but in terms of emotion. And
so you're saying this is like a very realistic war.
Yeah, basically, exactly.
Because before Gundam, like you have Mazinger and stuff like that. Those guys are like Looney Tune bad guys, right?
Yeah.
But I think Gundam's like real world setting creates that, right? Where like you're dropped into a war that's extremely realistic, right? I mean, like the Zabi family could be a dictatorship, but there are definitely people who the Zabi family uses who are just just normal people, right? Like that's
normal
just how the war is, and
To move this along, I want to get some points from you guys. 2 points that you could add for Sailem Mass, either a highlight for her or involvement that is most impactful for the series. We'll start with Derek on this one. What do you think of Sailem?
It's kind of like more all in one, really. I think Sailem is basically Tomino's like dream girl, like from his imagination. Like he has her envisioned down to the color of her nipples. I'm not kidding.
That's
I'm not
really
kidding.
dicey, but I remember
there was a time. Yeah, there was a time when they were talking the show, and they were talking about and then this was one of the doujinshis, and a lot of doujinshis happened, and then there was a show talking about it, and they were making fun of Sailor and stuff like that. Tomino called in, and he goes, "Sailor's nipples are pink," and hangs up.
What? Like he legit called?
He legit.
I'll ship you
My
my pink
like
salad.
tricking that out. Like
Okay.
no contest.
Beautiful.
Sailor's nipples are pink.
Stellar.
Like he's envisioned her to that degree.
Oh
So
my
I
god.
think you mentioned it in the novelization too. So like how would I say this? I think for Sailor, like that was the ending or thing, right? Like the main point of it was, this is like Tomino's dream, ideal vision version of beauty, kind of thing, ultimate beauty.
Nice. Okay, let's go with Hayden. What do you think? Sailem Mass.
I think she draws a lot of like same features as like what a typical Japanese man's like idea of an exotic woman is in that time era. Like Maytel from Galaxy Express, for example, is like
Oh
this
my god,
blonde
Galaxy
woman, right?
Express. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, on
like
that.
like blonde woman who's like very kind of like mysterious and kind of like exotic, right? And it's kind of like, that's just how the society is. But like I think Sayla in the novelization of her was very interesting. She, if I remember correctly, like she and Amuro were in a relationship, but they never touched upon it in the TV show because, well, like I don't know. I think he was trying to tell like a really like a more sophisticated story in novelization without holding back too many things. But I think because the TV show, kids are watching it and young teenagers are watching it, you can't have like a very corrupt hero in that sense, right?
Ooh,
Yes.
going for the purity on that one. Yeah. All right, Jonathan, Sailem Mass, fan, not fan. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm a huge fan. I think that she has one of like for such a like an old anime or old like story. I believe that she's a very strong female protagonist, and I think that shows a lot. She has character, right? She's part of a crew, but she's also like a dominating factor, not only in the story but in terms of personality, where she has opinion. She does it's late 70s, right? And she's telling these guys who are like high ranking officers, like they're almost giving them orders, right? She's strong, and I like that. I think that's a good trait for a character also in this era, especially in this era. And later on,
she definitely doesn't back down to
exactly.
But
commanders. I think that what's great about that is that at first you're like, wow, this it's random, but then you realize it's not random. She actually comes from a place of power, and where she's been led to believe she's the strong survives and the strong fights. And I think that like her whole story shows, her entire life story shows into her not her acting, but her
well, yeah,
you understand what it is.
Just how she grew up, right?
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
I mean, you're technically running in hiding, away from like one of the most powerful individuals in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, I think growing up like that, couldn't even imagine it, right? Like, probably like really hard exterior, right? You had to be. You didn't have a choice.
So speaking of women in Amuro's life, again, Sayla definitely had an impact with Amuro and the white base in general. They look up to her as like this, authority figure kind of person. She also pilots some vehicles along the way. So again, Sayla definitely has a strong women presence.
What's funny is that she's not at all a pilot. She's a doctor.
Yeah,
right?
She's field medic or doctor or something.
She's just like an
doctor pilot
being.
Badass. Like, speaking of badass women, let's talk about Lalah. Lalah and Amuro. That was an interesting turn. I believe this is like movie 2, if I'm going through my series, because like
yes,
but it's probably one of the most important events right?
Mhm.
After like getting to the
Lalah-
Gundam, meeting Lalah triggers the entire
Yeah.
universe of Gundam, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let's start with that. Lala's presence, like positive or negative effects on the war, like itself, because like she was there as a pilot, mainly for the the name of it, the
Helmet.
helmet. Is it a
Mm.
helmet?
The
Is that what it's called?
Elmeth.
Elmet, right?
Elmet.
But again, that was like revealed at a much later.
when Char had
stage.
the Gelgoog, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But she was. I think she wasn't a pilot. I think she was basically Char's apprentice in some way. At first, she was.
She's indebted to Char because Char saved her from something, and it's a debt that she can't repay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in Amuro's case, I think Lalah had a stronger connection with Amuro, but because they're both Newtypes, right? But it's because she has this like debt. She can't get out of it, and she also loves Char at the same time, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and I think that segues perfectly into the subject of new type, right? You want to go back for a second?
Oh, sorry. Hang on.
Oh no, no worry, no worry. Basically, new types are it's I think it's an introduction of like space magic, and I think it unveils the whole concept. What is the key phrase they use? It's basically it connects the minds of people and breaks the barriers of misunderstanding. I think it's basically mind reading.
Yeah.
And that is that they kind of like live. They don't live. They kind of think on another plane of existence of some sort.
Yeah, so I was gonna actually interject here. Like for example, like Neon Wave is in the comment section is saying like,
Yeah. I just
oh,
highlighted
it's
it.
so weird that he falls in love with her like all of a sudden. I think that the new type, this ethereal idea, is what like old types can't understand, right? It's
Mhm.
because they really do have like an instant connection because they can detect each other, right? And this type of new empathy and passion for each other is something that old types can't understand.
Yeah.
And in some cases that's why they say like, young kids and stuff like develop really strong emotions and have a great capacity for love and compassion, right? But it's this strength. So it's like I think Tomino's trying to write about like the strength of this empathy, right? For humanity, that makes them instantly connect to each other. And it's not something that is supposed to be kind of like explained. They just connect. And
It's more of a
I think
feeling.
it's a feeling.
It's more of a
right?
feeling.
Yeah. But I think the fact
just
that
to add on to what Half was saying is, you also have to realize that of course these were written with the Eastern mindset, right? And in the Eastern mindset, especially like Japan, what the influences were mainly like the Shinto and Buddhist traditions, right?
Right.
And one of the things that in Buddhist teachings and especially in Eastern philosophy is everything can be resolved is just by just pure simple understanding.
Yeah.
The concept of black and white, good and evil, actually, they don't really care much about that in those Eastern philosophies. Some parts of it, anyways, right? So, to add on top of what Half is saying, is that this is another step that humans can achieve. Is that next step to enlightenment?
Yeah.
Is to try to understand each other and by trying to understand each other, you open new doors to understanding of other things. So that's one of the philosophies and guiding forces of Eastern philosophy.
Yeah.
Right. That Tomino also put into here, which I don't think you find much in the Western stories until the recent cartoons, right? But it was very prevalent here, and this is like kind of like this is like the next step. Like I don't know if you want to call it Buddhahood or enlightenment, but it was kind of a representation of what they thought.
It's an ethereal thing, kind of like the Force.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to draw Star Wars.
Well, we're gonna talk about that in a bit here. John,
and then afterwards, like he meets Lalah, and then I think it moves on to more of on the Char side, right? the story about Char and how he. There's a huge backstory that's not really explained. It's explained, but quickly in this anime. But you can see more in the Origin series. But basically, Char has been betrayed by his youth. Him and Sailem have been rendered orphans almost, right? And at some point in the third movie, you see Char exercising his revenge on the Zabi family, who's taken over the Principality of Zeon.
Right.
And then it goes very quickly. I think he goes on like a full series of like first he kills. Does he first kill Garma?
His first kill was to replace someone else's identity. Really.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No. He killed a lot.
in the
Well, he killed a lot more, but like that mattered to him, I guess. Like directly kicking off his character. I mean, right?
Exactly. So
assume his identity. Yeah.
Assumes identity. Yeah.
And at this point, basically, he early on in the military academy, he made friends with one of the Zabis, and I think you can see. Can you switch? Go to the image.
Yeah, sure.
And can you go to the next image afterwards? He says something like, "It's Gama. If you can hear me, blame this on the misfortune of your birth." Basically, they've been best friends. Like it's as far as like. They can concern is
The
like
academy.
he's Garma's best friend, and it's Char's best friend is Garma. But the issue is his entire life has been led by the fact that he needs to take revenge and destroy the Zabis. And
He's
unfortunately,
consumed by vengeance. Yeah.
exactly. And unfortunately, Garma is a Zabi, so he has to kill his best friend to fulfill his mission. And basically starts with Garma, and then he goes on to kill Gyron, I believe. Is Gyron last?
No, Kycilia kills
Kycilia is next.
Kycilia.
Oh,
Kycilia's
beautiful.
last.
Kycilia kills Garen. He just ends up killing.
Yes, exactly.
Kycilia.
Kycilia kills
Yeah,
Gyron.
it's like a
impossible
like,
shot.
Yeah. I forgot
Yeah.
the gun in the back of the head from Kycilia. Well, I mean, Gyron has done very, he's been kind of dominating mistreating his family at some point, like using them to take power. Does anyone of you know how the father died?
Yes, he was assassinated.
As well. Okay.
Everybody was like picked off one by one
Yeah,
throughout the kind of.
Except for
What's his
Doza.
name?
Doza died by by
Yeah.
Amuro.
I forgot. Yeah, Amuro killed Dozol in the Big Zam.
Yep.
I mean, one of
Yep.
the space war and on the.
The father died because he was like getting really old, and he was actually in talks with an Earth Federation like general to create either a ceasefire or some kind of peace treaty. Before he did it, he was killed by his own son, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, "Yeah, I'm Hitler." that's because his father compared him to Hitler, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I am."
So speaking of all these deaths around
Yes.
here, the next one up.
Yes. So basically, Char has taken Lalah as his apprentice, put them as a pilot because they have I forgot the name of it. No, but there's a guy in the comments. He's basically spatial awareness. Because of spatial awareness, they can control what they call bits, funnels, basically. And he puts them in a special prototype mobile suit, the Elmeth. And basically, both of them, Char and the Gelgoog, Lalah and the Elmeth, are trying to destroy the Gundam, right? The only weapon stopping them from winning the war. And at some point, the Gelgoog slashes the Gundam, which dodges and slices Lalah. Now we have to establish who is Lalah to Char. Because it's not
As Char's counterattack says,
I was gonna say, you mean
you killed I killed my mom. I can't live with myself.
Yeah.
No, that's it. You need
think it's
to.
just,
we need to define it because it's not his girlfriend. It's not his. Is it a new type mental understanding? Is it? I don't know. It's not explained in the movie. It's only said in words in Char's counterattack as she was like my mom, but that is weird.
I think
Mommy
I don't know
issues,
how to
right?
interpret that idea. I don't know what.
How would I say this? I think this is also at the same time. I see it as also a very Japanese thing.
Mhm.
In the late 70s, early 80s, throughout the 90s, there was actually something called enjokosai, and that's a real thing. Now, most people would say over here, yeah, that's pedophilia, right? But over there in their
Well,
society,
you may want to explain what that is first. Before you
enjokosai
jump into-
basically, yeah, enjokosai.
No, we know what that is.
You know, you sure know what that is? Yeah, it was
It's
somewhat accepted.
Yeah.
There.
yeah. Okay.
Let's
There.
make that very clear.
Yeah,
Let's make it
age
very
of consent
clear.
is
It was
16 or
accepted.
something,
It-
and basically,
roughly around 15, 16, they would start dating these older men for
Yeah.
things, right?
Money.
And for money. And a lot of times that relationship grew.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the staff in Sunrise had such relationships.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe one or two, like on the down low, right? The thing is that it's accepted in that society, whether we like it or we condemn it or not. It happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I think it's been portrayed. That's it.
yeah, it's been portrayed, and in the way I see it is, it's being portrayed in the relationship between Lalah and Shar, right? So you have an older gentleman, right, established, and he's dating clearly with a 16-year-old. Now, at first, it's introduced that the 16-year-old is there as an experiment to pilot things to help their program, so to speak, right? Because remember, after Garma died, he got canned. Then he got rehired by Cassilia to be part of our little secret program for the Newtype program, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
that Newtype program, he brings her aboard.
Didn't he get hired by Dozo?
No, he got hired by Cassilia.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Cassilia was the one that hired him.
Cassilia heard that he got benched, so
Yeah.
she,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
she brought him.
because he failed to protect Garma, right?
Yeah. And
Failed.
so yeah, failed. So basically from there it was supposed to be like this platonic relationship, but it grew to something more. Right? You can see it grow to something more, and it was like read between the lines growing.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
explicitly said.
Yeah.
And that's the point. I think that was the point. It was supposed to be you read between the lines.
Okay. Yeah. No, exactly. Well, that actually explains why I'm like reading between the lines and kind of understanding, but not
Like, I
clearly
think-
stated.
I think that Lalah and Shar, it's a very complex relationship because I think in part, Tamino, I think he knew what he wanted to say, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if he executed it all that well. Maybe that's why we're having this kind of issue with what it is, right?
I think the problem
yeah.
also is for us trying to put labels, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly one of the things too, where like you can't sometimes classify like a relationship between two people. It's not just black and white, you know, especially like in modern like standards too, right? But I think Lalah is just like someone who he can detach his vengeance from. Like someone that after all of this, after I have my vengeance, I have somebody I can go to you know, to think about life, right? Because she's not a war person.
Yeah.
She's just
She's innocent.
She's
innocent.
normal.
I
Yeah.
think he's chasing that kind of purity because his whole life he's just been given shit, right?
Yeah.
Like he loses his dad, goes into hiding, kills countless people just to get to where he is, and
Had assassination
maybe-
attempts on him.
yeah,
Right.
exactly, right?
Right.
So like even as a kid, he's just trying to like kind of like make sense of this world, and she might be that stabilizing agent that he really desires, but he
Right.
kills her, and that tears him apart, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and so basically that's what happened. Literally, Shar kills Lalah because of a miscalculation of attack to Amuro. And this is very close to the end, right? What happened after that?
well, Lalah protected Shar
Yeah,
because
yeah, okay, yeah.
because he was
Oh, wait.
you know right
No,
like
Lalah protected
wasn't
Sharp,
it?
but then it wasn't it Amuro's beam saber that goes through her.
Is it?
It was.
Or is it?
Yeah.
this is really important.
Oh my god,
guys.
I'm pretty sure. That's
very
what I
important.
remember. That's what I remember. Dang it.
Lalah dying triggers the
Yes,
entire universal
yes.
century.
So
Who
yes,
killed
Amuro.
Lalah? Is it Shar
Oh, sorry.
or is
Yes,
it
it was
Amuro?
Amuro.
Okay, it was
My
Amuro.
bad.
Yeah.
That's my
Vaguely-
little mess up there. Sorry, guys. Yes, it was Amuro.
So
Amuro blamed Char forevermore.
Yeah, oof.
For
Yeah.
brainwashing Lalah.
Sumen.
Yeah,
Lala, who
Sumen.
killed you? Who killed you? Was it Char or was it Amuro? I think the
Amuro
real
No,
forever.
I fucked up. I fucked up
I-
real bad. Yeah, it's fucking Amuro.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why Char is not satisfied with Amuro at all, right?
No,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
that makes even more sense, right? Now he has a new guy to hate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
But then
vengeance doesn't stop.
So that triggers Char to go slightly berserk, jumps
Mhm.
into a prototype called the Xiong, which is a psycho
Finger
commune.
gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. Because Char
doesn't
is a
have
new
the-
type, right? So this one does not have like the wireless one. It has the wired one, which is the prototype.
Yes, it has
Yeah.
a wired one. It's a mobile armor, right? It's
Yeah,
not.
it is.
Yes,
It
yeah.
is,
It's not a
yeah.
mobile.
It was
suit.
built for Lalah, actually.
Yeah.
It was originally built for Lalah in mind, because the psycho commune system inside there was supposed to like really enhance her abilities, but she kicked the bucket before she could try it.
And
Right.
then Char goes
gonna-
berserk, goes to attack Amuro one last time.
Mhm.
This is a
fights.
Diaboliku, yeah.
Right. At this point, we should mention that the Gundams got like upgrades too. Like it got the magnetic coating upgrade, which
Yeah.
completely changes his mobility power. Like I remember Bright was saying something like, "Yeah, he's not human anymore." Like
Yeah.
that
The
Gundam moving out there is
response rate-
not human.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like he is so tuned in with his spatial awareness in combat, right? Due to his new type abilities. So he can detect Char from like a fucking like miles away, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
that's definitely like a very like super robot-y kind of upgrade, but yeah.
So in the end, both of them get destroyed. The head flies off of the Xiong, and then the head flies off of the Gundam as well.
You got to have the iconic shot, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
the one shot.
The one-way shoots
One
up.
shot, right?
Yeah.
And that was just with Amuro just saying that's where the fuck you are, and just shoots up.
Yeah, he shot the cockpit area, but the mobile armor, the pilot's in the head.
Yeah.
So Char
Yeah,
got lucky. Like he just detached.
If it was the core, like a traditional whatever mobile suit, yeah, he would have been totally annihilated.
he's
Exactly.
dead. Yeah.
Oh man.
So he survives, and the end, I guess, right?
No, that was
No,
it.
they
there
do a battle, very like where they like.
Oh yeah,
almost
they
kiss
jump.
each
Yeah,
other,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's
They
it.
jump
Oh, yeah.
forward.
That's a great. And I was always amazed by the what they call the normal suits, and I think this is like
Okay.
the super mobile space suits, super like skinny space suits basically.
Mhm.
Yeah, they hit each other and they fight, and then Char with his cane hits. No, he has a cane. Like it's a rifle, but like in a weird cane.
Cane
Format.
movement.
And yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's a really good synopsis of where we're at to the show. The next half of this, hitting at the cane, we're going to end off there. We do have more information. We're going to be talking about Tamino. We're going to talk about some mech designs, Western influences, a lot more. But we're just going to take this time, halfway point of the show, to thank our sponsors and partners for the show. MSMN Studio, check them out, guys. Lots of cool Gundams materials and parts if you're looking for that. Check them out, msmnstudio.com. Also, USA Gundam Store, check them out, usagundamstore.com, and save with discount code AOMECHA10. If you are into Gundams, check out the Side 6 community over at Facebook, facebook.com/groups/side6. And also, Ayo Mecha Live, currently in the season 2 finales. This Saturday is a feature builder starring Lincoln Wright. So that will be on 9 p.m. EST. And yeah, welcome back, guys. Are you guys ready for the next subject? Because like I'm kind of stoked about this one.
I think a lot. Just quick thing. I think in the comment section, a lot of people were asking if I was at the shop. This is my basement. I don't know.
This is his other shop. This is the private vault, if anything.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay, so the next portion of the show, or rather the whole episode here, we're going to be talking about some mythos, some influences, especially from the creator and whatnot. But I think what we wrote down first, and give me 1 second here, I'm going to try to pull up less screen. Is Super Robot Wars. We wrote that down because why? Why are we talking about Super Robot Wars? What is the influence of that in social and cultural impacts?
Oh.
Well, go ahead, Alf. You first. You're good at this. I am.
Well, like before Gundam, everything was considered the super robot genre, and what that consists of is like the robot itself isn't like it isn't about the repairability or like the logistics of how these robots came to be or how they operate. As you watch the show, you just naturally assume that it can do these abilities without having to question anything.
Yeah,
Like fantasy
right.
sci-fi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no power source. Well, there is power source, but like magical power source. There's like
Exactly.
special power. They pull out weapons that are bigger than like their pockets.
And then they are right.
Yeah.
Like Mazinger with their rocket punch and like Ghetto Robo with their power source, right? More efficient than nuclear energy.
Exactly.
I think they really stretched and then used the line by, I think it was Mark Twain that coined it. Anything that science can't explain or whatever is denoted as magic at first, until later when science can explain it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're, this was going for.
Technically, it is like that's what science fantasy is, right? In essence, like Super Robot is all about the robot. You know what I mean? It's also about this generic. Like, I don't want to call out every Super Robot show, but a lot of them exhibit the same features. It's a confident young man who either has dead parents or something, and the professor just finished making their last robot or something, and they're like, all right, look, the show's got to start. Listen, I got to be out by 5. I mean, dead by 5. So just get on the robot.
Let's go.
Get on the robot.
Just get in there.
Get in there. And, if you're not human, you're like some robotic features too, right? Like, I know that Steel Jig, he's like a cyborg, right? So like it's very similar to Kamen Rider. So like back then in the 70s, 60s, the tokusatsu like Ultraman and like Kamen Rider, all those stuff are very synonymous with the growth of like mecha, like anime.
Yeah,
they're very like intertwining trends with each other because they're both selling toys, right? To young men, young adults.
But I think there was also a bit of influence from the kaiju era, where it grew from things that are big and kind of sci-fi, and then the kaiju needed like a protagonist, and then they kind of like the human technology versus the nature of the kaiju, and then that's where robots kind of came to birth, I believe.
Yeah, and it really grew as it actually really took off as what Alf said through the merchandising. Right, because if it wasn't for the merchandising, it wouldn't have taken off as
it's a complete capitalist game. Like it's all about that money.
100%.
Like,
and they were making bank on all that stuff.
Especially Mazinger, I would say.
Speaking of bank,
Yamato also made tons of bank.
Yeah.
Right.
So this guy here made bank on
this poor sucker. Oh man.
This poor bastard. Did this fucker know what he was about to jumpstart? Right?
Did he know? Look at his face. Is he sure? Is he sure? He's just kind of like, well, here we go, I guess.
Actually, okay.
I don't know what the appeal of this is.
This was taken after he did Turn A Gundam, when he was all better. You should see a picture of him.
Okay. How about
Oh no, that's way after.
That's after Sunrise gave him the page.
You need to find a picture of him around 1991-92 when Bandai first merged with Sunrise, and he was making Victory Gundam, and he was known as Killamal Tomino.
Yeah.
He did not look good.
No, all you have to say is that he made Victory Gundam. Just imagine how he felt at the time. And like if his emotion were produced on paper, that was like
his life was like falling apart at that time, right?
Yeah, it was horrible. He hated that part of his life, right?
Yeah. So Tomino, let's talk about him real quick. big influencer that kickstarted all this like Gundam and all that. I'm totally bad.
Well, I think
badly describing
he's
him, by the way.
He's the grandfather. He's the forefather of real robots, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like before, like as soon as like Gundam, I want to make it very clear too that Gundam is not like just a real, like it is a real robot show. It's technically like the trendsetter, right? But it still
Mhm.
had a lot of obvious like super robot
Oh, for
elements
sure, for
into
sure.
it because
It's real,
like
but it still
shows
has
shows cannot like instantly transition into real robot. Like I couldn't imagine a world where there would be Mazinger and the next year there would be like Votoms or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Because
it has to stick
that
to
would be
one
ridiculous.
kind of thing.
Yeah. On top
Yeah,
of that,
because Gundam still at the end of the day don't make real physical sense.
No, exactly.
Right?
Because the way to explain is that maybe the super robot has a high suspension of disbelief, while the real robot has a
Yes.
lower suspension of disbelief.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
It's
it's
not
like
a
the idea.
mysticism.
It's the idea that like
Spectrum.
even the plot, right? It's about the robot and it needs to be repaired, right?
Yeah.
We ran out of bullets. We
Mhm.
need like a bunch of these things, and we're short on supplies. We need to go get reconnaissance. We need to do intel gathering, like real world things that are attributed to real life warfare, right? And I think that's what's so captivating initially to like a lot of people, in that genre, right? And Tomino like really like lit that shit on fire. So
Derek, you had some points. What do we got?
Well, the other thing is that like it was more like Tomino's trying to sneak all these realistic things into Gundam than the other way around. Because remember back then, if you want an anime show, you got to talk to a toy company because they're the ones that have the money to bankroll your show, and if they didn't believe in it, no money. So he had to. Yeah, there you go. That's the
I got you. I got
So
you. Hang
the
on.
first partnership was with
Clover.
Clover.
yeah.
So-
they made toys. Yeah.
They made toys. And so basically we can start before we get to this part if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe a brief on a little bit of the beginning of that one and that led to the
Tomino and Yoshiyuki and a couple of guys have been working on Space Battle Yamato and a couple other super robot genre things, right? And they were like, okay, and then Tomino was like, oh man, I'm kind of tired of like all this super robot stuff, and he wanted to tell something new. And he wanted originally to tell a story of a bunch of kids floating in space taking part in this galactic war, right? And that was his original concept idea. And as he kind of fleshed that out a little bit more, and then they said, sure, let's try to talk to some toy companies. Got shut down. Clover's like, okay, sure, but here's some changes we want. We want a super robot. We want this, and this because we want to sell that stuff. And they were like, and Tomino's like, okay, how the hell do I add this? So he brainstormed a couple of things, and at that time, he wanted something to be realistic because this was kind of like a microcosm. The ship with the kids was kind of a microcosm of what was out there, and he wanted everything to be realistic as possible. So this is when he got the idea for the mobile suits, and that's why they're called mobile suits, was because of the book he read, Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah. The book of Starship Troopers is totally different, following in a way than the movies, and that's a whole different
absolutely
episode altogether.
The main thing is that what he got out of it was the suits to fight the arachnids, number one, and number two, everybody was in a formed unit. Everybody got these suits set to them, and then they were repaired. And he wanted that part involved in here if he were to make it. So then he got together with his buddy Okawara, made a couple designs, and said, okay, here's the first revision, and he called it Gun Boy, right? And then that got shut down.
Yeah.
And mind you, this happened in just a span of a couple of months here, right? Everything works fast over there. And he got dejected, and then he came back, and I don't know if you want to tell the story of Charles Bronson, and he came back with the idea of Gundam with new drawings from Okawara, and he said, "Oh, we like it," but the new drawings were the G3
yeah
gray color, right? And then they're like, no. Culver's like, kids like color. We want that in yellow, blue, and red. And he's like, okay, sure. As long as we don't have to change the look, we're good. Fine, whatever. So that's how Gundam got its colors, right? And how Gundam got its name, how he pitched it to them, to Clover, the company, was, it's freedom and gun together, and you got Gundam, right? But there is kind of a...
I think I got some images here for that one. I think, is it this guy here?
No. That's the original look. That
was the original look.
No, not the original look. That's the after it's been through.
Oops.
That's the Star Wars. No.
Sorry.
There is an original photo. I think you can.
Yeah, it just basically looks like it's just one visor or something like that.
There's one with the one visor, and then there's another iteration where it's basically a robot that looks like a transformer, like with a mouth and everything, in like a samurai outfit.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That was a set. I think that's a set, probably second or third revision. I'm not too sure, but the final look is
basically what you see here.
What you see here, obviously, right? Yeah. And it was like in all
Actually,
white.
You know what's funny? I'm gonna take the wrong one. Let me put this here for a second. We were talking about the old stuff here. I got this guy here. We were talking about it for a bit.
It'll be in there. It'll be in that book.
I think it'll be in this book. So this is the Gundam Archive. This is a freaking rare book. It's huge, by the way. And inside this is like this very plain looking book, no cover, no nothing in it. Like I'm just gonna flip through it, see if I could get. But
probably
like
the first page.
I'm gonna look for the first couple of pages here.
That book's huge.
It is huge.
Jesus Christ.
It's massive.
So this is what
like
the
college
white base.
textbook.
That's the
Yes,
original.
that's the full, the FF.
Yeah, the FF. You used to be called known as Freedom Fortress.
Yeah, Freedom Fortress. Yeah.
And
No, I think it would be
wow.
before that. Would it be before that?
I got. This is heavy.
I think Freedom Fortress was part of Gunboy's conception, wasn't it? 'Cause
it could have been. I'm not too sure.
No, I got. I found it.
But
all I know is that they needed a base.
yeah, they needed. Yeah.
Here we go. So for all of you guys at home,
There you go.
That's the original. Those are the two originals, and that was for Gunboy.
yeah, crazy how it evolved from this to the Gundam that we are now familiar with, the VFin and all that stuff. Here's some also concept art for the gun tank and the gun cannon.
Gun cannon, yeah.
So again, lots of stuff here on this book, and like original kind of like.
It feels
line
very
art.
photo.
It is. I'm just saying that this gets you. I haven't opened this in like a while. This is definitely from one of my vaulted area back there. But now to see, I didn't even realize there was colors in this. And hang on, I was.
You bought an expensive book and you didn't even flip it through. Come on, man.
I flipped it through once. That was like years ago. Hang on, I want to show you guys the characters because there are some like marker characters here. Here, there's a perfect one. So the characters are the same though. There was no change.
Look, it's Shithead Kai. I love him. Look at him.
Yeah, I think those characters were done during the Gunboy, and they weren't really rejected. I don't think, but the concept of Gunboy originally was rejected, like the protagonist part. The antagonist, I don't think, was rejected, because Clover knows, all toy companies know the protagonist toy is going to sell the most. That's where you make the money from, right? And unfortunately, this funny thing is that like I just realized it happens only in the span of a year. Gundam sucked, like didn't have good ratings at all.
Yeah, during its era.
Yeah. We're talking about the series, huh?
We're talking about the series.
Bad, right?
The series wasn't bad, but nobody was paying attention to it except for high school kids and some choice university students. And at that time, the high school kids really liked it. And Tomino and Clover would finally put these toys out, and it tanked. Like they popped in, I don't know, back then several $100,000 for the product, and they didn't sell anything.
Ooh,
And
sexy.
sexy.
Wow. So where would you say is the turning point? Let's talk about turning point of Gundam and where the origin kind of like took off. Like we now know a bit of the synopsis of the story. We now know a little bit of history. Tomino's
how
his
it started.
vision is kind of right.
Yeah.
So we're now at this industrial age of like, hey, we're able to produce toys. We're able to produce model kits because that's the thing. Like that's like where it kind of like tipped over as well, right?
Actually, this is where I'm going to lead to, because it's leading to that tip-off point, because Clover failed and they gambled all their stuff, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it nearly took them under, and then the next venture took them under. So that they canceled the show. They said, okay, we were originally 52, and now we're cutting it down to 49 or
43.
43. Thank you. 43. And at that time,
43.
the production crew was already working overtime to make all these shows, and they were kind of relieved that it's only 43 instead of the original 52. But Japanese syndication works a bit weird. Now, because they kind of got dropped, because of that, all their previous shows were kind of like free game. So while they were airing, all these other channels started picking Gundam up and started airing. So while Gundam was airing, reruns of their show really got them really popular.
Right.
And Tomino was like, I remember him saying, like, he was in that documentary. It says like, oh, hey, I wanted to continue this, and I fought for it, because it wasn't because like he got like overwhelming support from family. But the funny thing is that he knew he had a hit because a third of his fans of actual fan mail were from girls.
Oh, nice.
Third.
What? Really?
And
awesome.
a third, and that was kind of what made him like, oh, I'm onto something, right?
Yeah.
And I like something good. So they continued finishing it, and right in the middle was when it really boomed, and a lot of like students were doing their own cosplay and stuff like that and whatnot. And it from that point, that was when the snowball would be visible, getting bigger and bigger. And that's the start of the boom. And then I think Bandai, a little known company that just made model kits, was like, yeah, sure, I'll open it up, right? And they made like wooden molds at the time, and they made these things. And I can't remember when they were released, but I think they were released later on that year, just before the show ended. And holy fuck, did they sell like hotcakes! Right, and this is in the 80s now. We're in the 80s now.
I was gonna say I have a Zeta 1100. I think 1983.
Have you
the gum looking thing inside?
Give me a second.
Zetas would be around 83, 84.
You should have eaten the gum, man.
Yeah,
it's still there. It is still there.
Challenge.
Bring your oldest, bring your oldest, what do you call it? Like, bring your oldest kit that have those.
Exactly.
So basically, Dom from 1980.
I think exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
it's 1980.
It is the worst kit I've ever worked on.
Yeah. Well, but then back then,
why are you hating, man? Yo, the oldies were the best.
Oh man, that was
right. So 79, the show starts off. Just before the show finishes, right? These guys come out, and the Gunpla boom begins.
It's not bad. You did a good job on it, John.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. Only because I'm talented. Because this thing.
Yo, is that a seam line, dude? What the fuck?
I was gonna say,
where?
Right there, man. No, it's on your face. No, it's on your face, John.
Yeah, but these things
got some firecrackers to it.
Yeah, that's right. Once you burning houses down, do the weathering. You have not just houses, neighborhoods were being burnt down because kids wanted to weather their kits. You got people like trampling over each other. Like, when Nintendo and like Super Nintendo came into the stores in North America, and there was this huge lineup and people were scrambling for that shit. That's what it was like when all the Gundams hit the stores. They could not keep it going. And they could not keep it like in their stock.
Bandai wasn't the first company that took on their model kits, right?
No, Bandai was the one. Bandai was the one.
Okay.
Yeah, Bandai was the only one, because the other ones like Hasegawa and
Tamiya were
want to do it.
Yeah, like I think a short note on like the modeling world. Every single company at that time had a gentleman's agreement Hasegawa guys would do this type of model kit, whether it be tank, planes, or something like that. Each company that were rivals would make model kits based on what they agreed on. So everyone did one type of subject, and then here comes Bandai, fucking throwing like robots, into the market, right? It really like in a way pissed them off. But there is definitely like a gentleman's agreement, kind of like big wig guys, saying like, okay, we're only gonna make tanks, but you guys better only make airplanes and stuff like that, right? So that kind of thing was very prevalent back then, and it still is like technically right now as well, right? So
yeah, because the tanks and the planes don't have any licensing agreements with anybody, so they can just kind of do it. But then Bandai came in and they're like, sure, we'll try this, because they were just some low-end toy maker or model maker, right? They're like, we'll see how this goes.
Can we talk about designers for a bit? Original designers for the model kits. You guys know who some of the major players were for that?
Are you talking about the model, or are you talking about
the design
the
that helped both, right? Like that launched
was
like,
Okawara.
It's Kunio Okawara, like did the industrial, like he was an industrial designer who grew up in like Okinawa. He said like when he was a kid, he's seen like everything, because Okinawa, if you guys don't know, is like where the Americans like set up their bases post World War II. So he said growing up, I've seen a lot of like tanks and planes and stuff like that in my neighborhood. It became like part of my life. So then when he became I think it was called like an industrial illustrator, or that type of profession. It was what he did was, he said like he was inspired by a lot of Western media, right? Like a lot of like Mobius, for example, and like a bunch of other ones. But anyways, he said that when he was making the Zaku, it was probably one of the smoothest thing that he's ever made, like in terms of workflow. Like, he only worked on it. He drew it. He was like, I finalized the design in like a week, and it was really amazing. And he works really well with Tomino. And over the years, Kunio Okawara has worked on a bunch of stuff. Like if you guys watch Build Fighters, he did the original like designs for those. Gundam Seed.
Right.
So if you guys check like your instruction manual in your Gunpla, if you see like a really stubby kind of weird, like you're like, oh, why is the proportion like that? Like really stubby looking guy. It's in all the Gundam Seed manuals, and it's Okawara's original conceptual design. And
that is neat. I'm gonna have to check the manuals now.
Yeah, so like I think everybody knows that like Okawara created it, and then like the designers nowadays are just reinterpreting his design into their own proportion and constraints. And that's how Gunpla is, like always has been, kind of, right? But Okawara is really like the guy who's been making the actual designs.
Right. So we've touched on the Japanese influence and Japanese history of it, but what about the Western influence and past and present, right, of Gunpla into the Western influence of our like side of the world?
We talked about this earlier, right? Like before the show. I just want to echo to what John is saying. That like for me, there's a little bit of conversation about like how Star Wars was a big kind of like, I wouldn't say big, but like it's definitely one of the influences. A couple of things to note: the lightsaber or beam saber, and we were just talking about Amuro in the Gundam, where he has to pull out that scope that goes on the side of his head. Very, very reminiscent of the X-wing scope as well. So what do you guys know about like some of the influences on some of the designs?
Well, the most visible and most noticeable, like I guess you can say, the more obvious ones are the Star Wars influence, right? But the more subtle ones, which have much more impact, I think, are, as I mentioned, Starship Troopers. Is it Starship Troopers, right?
Yep.
Starship Troopers, because it directly flowed into the idea that these mecha units should be like military equipment, right? Units get them. Yeah. That's why they call them mobile suits. You didn't want them 60 feet. You wanted them about 20 feet or something, or 10, 20 feet high at first, right? But Clover says, no, we want a giant robot, because back then that's
I think it's like a compromise between investors and the actual, like what his envision is, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the second thing, to make it realistic, he dove into the works of like Asimov and O'Neill. O'Neill is, of course, what
Yes,
is called
absolutely.
O'Neill cylinders, and O'Neill
Yeah.
actually was a futurist designer back in the
Yep.
Yeah.
50s and 60s, and and because of the space race, also popularized what humanity would be like in the future. And O'Neill cylinders was the colony, because in order to create gravity, you have to rotate at a certain speed.
Yeah, they actually pulled all the physics behind it. Like it's an actual,
Exactly.
and also the L placement, I believe that's the name of it, is the placement of colonies around Earth in certain areas to actually take advantage of gravity and orbit, maximum capacity of it, and everything has been explained like so early on. The definition of how we could live in space, and that wasn't like a research paper, right? That was a novel. That was pure sci-fi, but with such accuracy in physics that it was amazing.
And this is where I think Tomita wanted to bring back what in the 70s of the super robots was science fiction fantasy. He wanted to bring back to hard science fiction, like Asimov. Arthur C. Clarke, thank you. Right, those guys who was their stories were rooted in actual design, like actual physics, real life physics that had been discovered at the time. Laws of robotics and stuff like that Asimov created, and whatnot. So they played a more subtle and a much more role, I would say, in influencing Gundam. And then, in my opinion, then Star Wars. Star Wars is the obvious one. You see the lightsabers and the thing, but the concept behind it, the Minovsky particles, was, I think, the only thing that was more fantasy. But they also try to look up, particles can interrupt and interfere with electromagnetic waves. So that means you can interfere with radio and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned early on about the involvement of Buddhism into the Newtype element, but is it possible? I think Alf also mentions it in a quick way. I'm not sure if it's accurate, if it's real or whatever, but Newtype element and the Force from Star Wars?
Very synonymous.
Yeah, very synonymous.
Yeah.
Actually, the thing is that I think I just want to remind everybody, the concept of the Force was taken from Eastern philosophy. Right? He took it from Eastern philosophy.
Yeah, Star Wars was like a space Buddhist cowboy film.
Yeah, exactly.
If you
look at it, and that ethereal thing isn't really much in even Western with mythology or Western stories.
Yeah.
At the time.
Oh, okay.
They don't. There's that ethereal thing is not really there or talked about. But in Asian stories, a lot of it's talk about that ethereal connection. So, shoot, I forgot his name.
Do you think there's a also like a Eastern influence on Western designs because of Gundam? We're gonna touch base about the influences next on this one here, but like, do you think it was one way at the time, like they're just like because of the up and coming Japanese mecha anime culture, that they're taking the scientific, the sci-fi genres as their kind of like their path forward, rather than them creating their own mythos?
I think I'll talk a little bit about that.
You can talk about that.
Sure. In terms of like I think post-war Japan, this era that they've emerged after World War II. I think it's extremely important to learn like how they became the economic powerhouse that they are now, right? When they went like from all the way from like nothing to the 80s where they were booming, right? In these short span of 30 years, like they became a culture of consumer, like consuming like foreign things and outputting them to be very Japanese in essence. Like an example would be, let's say, like corn, right? The Americans gave corn, Spam, like these are canned foods, right? And because the Japanese back then, they were kind of like, they weren't really well off, right? So in order to make ends meet for like ramen, they started using miso paste. And that's how miso ramen became like a thing, right? It's due to the influence of Western interventionalism, right? So they do that for every part of their society. They even do it for what they look up to culturally.
Yeah.
Ultraman, it was an example of them creating a tribute to like the space age, right? Because the Russians and the Americans were like racing to go up into space, the moon landing. They see that as like an inspiration. So that's why that's why Ultraman his color scheme was heavily influenced by that time era things, right? And Gundam is definitely no different, right? It's looking at Western literature, seeing what they want to take, and then they just consume it, and then they output it into their own kind of interpretation in their own kind of way, right?
Yeah. I'd like to add to what Half just said. How it led to that culturally was, after World War II, Japan was decimate, right? Like, I'm going to say something, but I hope it's not too controversial, but it was actually true. My Japanese friend, they say that because when Hiroshima dropped, and the bomb drops on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? You look at those pictures, and a lot of times they look like the same pictures. It looks identical to Tokyo and other cities because prior to that, they've been like carpet bombed with fire bombs and stuff, right?
Right.
So Japan at that point after the war was desolate, right? It was like to rebuild, and this is where, like, I remember working in Japan with some of my workers, and they remember eating grubs. Like the grandparents would actually cook grubs, right? Like silk, like moth grubs, caterpillars for them to eat protein, right? And then how did they get out of it was the Korean War. The UN needed a close supply line, so you had heavy investment from the Western world flowing into Japan to create all these factories to create a supply line to feed into the war that was in Korea during 1950. And that 1 year war was just brought enough capital to Japan that kickstarted their economy again. Yeah. Right? And if it wasn't for that, Japan would be in a very, very different place today.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like it's investment, right?
Yeah, it was that huge
just like
investment that came in,
just like how they invested.
That allowed that cultural boom to say,
exactly. But then there's a trickle down effect where the money invested in certain industries is passed down to different stratus of the economy, and then booms everything, and then they evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah. The Americans invested in technically everybody during the war. Like even especially Europe, right? They were like, okay, we'll give you a bunch of money, but you have to sell our products without tariffs, right? Like that was the deal that Europe had to swallow, right? And that's why the US. I think that's why US is like had such a strong economy all throughout like the 20th century, right?
And I think one thing you mentioned about like taking something and revamping it, I think European has always, like in this era, Europeans have been extremely like booming in comic books. Not comic books. How do you call it in English? It's
say it in French first, and then say it in English. I'm kind of curious about that.
Bande dessinée.
No, say it in English, man.
Yeah, it's
say it in English.
A comic, basically a comic, and it has been taken by Japanese culture and evolved into the massive manga market that it is today. And by evolution, media of consumers' images, and it went into animation, and then animation led to all the anime and the boom culture. And Japan has been mastering this art for so long, and they basically took the position as number one producer of manga. Well, not manga, but of comic, right? In the world, and that's one of the example of taking something and like bringing it to the next level.
Funny you mentioned that. I think there's also other factors that led into it, but also and it also ties into your question there, Ariel, is that the designs of East influencing West and West influencing East. I think that's as old as time. I think you can even starts from like the Roman Empire and the Han Empire. Whenever one's at the peak, they stagnate, and then it needs to kind of like the breath of the East to bring it back to life, and then it'll flow back and forth again.
That's the synthesis theory. The idea that there's a synthesis, antithesis, and then there's a clash of compromise over the years, right? I think, That's always been prevalent. Like Japan, Korea back then, when they were just kingdoms, they would look to China, like the dynasties, right?
Yeah.
Because they were in the centralized power, right? So Japan's very interesting over the years, especially like their closed country sankoku thing that they did for like what 100 like a really long time. I don't remember the exact timing, but
some dynasty a long time ago.
Like that self creation has really like solidified their
self-sustainability.
That their ideology and everything too. So there's a lot of research papers that talk more about these like interesting cultural exchanges and ideas that I think people should spend more time learning. And then if they do, they'll understand like a lot of the Japanese media that was created in the 20th century, right?
But in terms of mecha influence, how do you guys feel about that's it, the Gundam has been influencing a lot of Western stuff, including so what about American mechas? I suspect they've had a lot of influence from Japan, obviously.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
So let's talk. Well, what's an American mecha? Let's Transformers.
Giant. Transformers is Japanese because Takara Tommy makes it.
Takara Tommy. American wise, go on, Derek. Sorry.
You can have the Iron Man's Dendrobium. It actually was featured in a comic. They actually took
that was Pat
Iron Man
Lee.
Dendrobium.
That was Pat Lee doing. Oh my god, I remembered that when all the Gundam fans are like
copying,
just straight up, copied it. But
But even if with a lot of influence, Japan has always been lead into mecha. Like,
I attended. No, go on.
Sorry. The interesting about that is Japan usually goes a lot more for piloting the robots as an extension as a machine.
Right.
Whereas North America is more about the AI robot.
Yeah. Oh,
Raised by Wolves, Terminator, right? Those would be the more original.
Yeah, I would say those are like huge trends that settled. But
like the robots autonomous, not
autonomous ones. Yeah,
and
that's a very big question. Like this one that you just asked, I'm still thinking about it. That's a big question because we don't know. Like I remember Nagano said this best. If you guys don't know who Nagano is, he's the guy who created 5-Star Stories, and he did a lot of the Zeta and Double Zeta stuff. He was saying like, at this point, influence of mecha from foreign countries is very hard to track where their inspiration is, because their inspiration could be from himself as well. Because he said because he drew so many of these like things that the principles and guidelines that constitute as the shape of a robot that he has pioneered himself. He says that I see my designs being used by other people nowadays who don't even know my name, right?
Yeah.
It's just the product that they made that was consumed by the people. And that's why, the whole idea of originality and stuff like that is very hard to track, right?
Yeah. It's very well said, honestly. Like it's true. Like it gone to a point that it's so big that we know, like if you dig deep enough, you know who the original guy is, right? The original guy that first put a certain style of mecha, and then you see the final product maybe 30 years later, and this guy is just like, I've been watching Iron Man my entire life, but then Iron Man has been from a certain place, and then that certain place has been from another place, and it's just another trickle down effect of inspiration. That's just the source is so far and omnipresent, like you say, right?
Well, if we're talking about
like a mixing pot,
influences, it'll be like Western samurais. Like if we're talking about Gundam in specific and all that, like lore and stuff. Yeah, like there was I forgot where it was, but I read that like a lot of it is taken from the feudal Japan samurais, where they have these
Kurosawa films, right? Like
Kurosawa films,
Hidden Fortress, Jimbo and all that. Like Akira Kurosawa has like really influenced Star Wars, and then Star Wars became such a huge fucking deal here, right? It influenced like the idea of what a ship, like a sci-fi ship is, right? The Greeblies, as George Lucas calls it. But like those things became the trendsetters for like things that occurred here now in the 2000s, right? 90s even. So
let's talk about current legacy, the legacy of 0079. We're talking about the RX-78 being one of the most staple mechas in pop culture. Just because it originated from Japan, like it's world renowned. You've seen it in movies as well, like Ready Player One and all that stuff. So it did transcend in a way that like it went from like a canceled show to this world phenomenon. Really,
But
we have the photo here for like the Olympics, right? Like they made this is the second.
It was meant for the Olympics.
Yeah, it was meant for.
Sorry,
I
John.
mean,
what do you got?
when you think about it, maybe 5-10 years ago, so it's what are we, 79, 80, so that's 40 years ago, literally this year. But think about it, 5 years ago in North America, let's say 10 years ago, like Gundam didn't really exist. It was like, it was not popular as it is today. Like just over the past 5 years, it grew into almost like a staple of it's a household name these days, right? And it's growing.
You're talking about Western families, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Western, right? Okay.
And I'm specifically talking about like the Asian families have grew with a Eastern cultural influence, so they have some exposure to Gundam. But when you talk about more white people, I can say it.
You are white.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm trying to find like, is it PC?
Are you though? Looking at all your like Japanese culture,
you're trying to say
in white
Latin
families,
American.
it became like now people know what it is, and it's growing every year, doubling, and even Bandai, who had no interest in North American market, start buying a Bluefin. They bought Bluefin to have a foothold in North America, and now they're expanding, and they're doing shows specifically more for North America. And I'm looking at Iron Blooded Orphan, which is less. It's not popular in Asia, but super popular in Western countries, and also doubling down on kits such as Wing and stuff like that, who has massive influence over like nostalgia of the youth of North America, and so basically now these days they're massive investment in toys, and which shows huge interest, because if sales are going up, well, Bandai's like, oh, maybe there's something over there that we need to exploit, quote unquote.
So, quick comment on that one. Didn't Tomino hated the fandom afterwards? Like later after. Can we just circle back on that one? So at a certain point, and we totally overshadowed this whole thing. Tomino, great creator Tomino, hated the fandom. Who could explain that the best? I'm looking at you, Half, or am I looking at you, Derek?
I could say one of the reasons. I think one of the reasons is honestly a lot of the reasons why directors even sometimes hate like their show. I'm talking about Star Wars specifically, like George Lucas, right? Like him and his team, even Tomino and his team just wanted to write a story, and that circles back to the original show, right? Like he just wants to tell a story about these people in space, these young adults, young kids, growing up together, right? And there's hardship, right? And they're just trying to tell a story. That's what being a director and a story writer is. Well, now Gundam has become like a franchise where there are people out there in the world who care about the exact specification of like the Zaku. They care about this one is like the sub-genre of this one. If this one isn't evolved from this one, then this story makes no sense. But like Gundam isn't supposed. It's not about that, right?
Exactly. Like, and all that stems from a canceled show from 40 years ago, which is mind blowing.
And it's just like people keeps adding on top of the list, right? Because people are passionate about the show. I get, obviously I get it. I'm very passionate about the show too. But like these people, it's just like they just try to make it bigger than it is, when they can just understand it's just a show.
Watch the movie Space Quest. I think, is that right? Space Quest with Tim Allen.
Oh my God!
Space Quest.
It's not Space Quest. Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Yeah.
That is a
100%, because the it was one of the hated things because like in Gunpla, like the older guys, we call them the UC Talibanists, because if it doesn't fit, like as Half said, if it doesn't fit this specification or it doesn't fit within this timeline, how can this whole thing make sense? And they're just trying to make sense of the world that Tomino created. And Tomino half the time is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right? And he even doesn't know. And during the fans and stuff like that, he gets asked these questions. He's like, what the fuck are they smoking? Right?
Yeah. It's just the fact that like these people who are so obsessed with this has begun to be able to purchase the merchandise, right? Because they're adults now, right? So they purchase the thing and they're like, fuck it, they're paying, right? Like, just make more shows. So it just becomes a franchise over and over and over, right? And the cycle is going to only keep continuing in the Western market here, right? I'm never going to see this die off. So
that's the thing. It grew like exponentially bigger than what he can emotionally handle, right?
Yeah. And he's not given the credit too much, you know? Like I remember in an interview he was saying like, I wish, like he says like, I'm the adult version of Studio Ghibli, like Miyazaki.
Oh fuck that guy, man.
But he was like, but Miyazaki gets more recognition to me because he makes something that's more consumer friendly, right? Consumable to a family. Accessible. Yeah. And you know, he's just saying like, I should have maybe done what he did instead, and maybe I would have gotten more recognition. So,
but have you heard about Miyazaki? Like he absolutely hates like the culture that he created and everybody that's around it and all the otakus.
Everyone hates their Anno. Okay, like if you want to talk about Miyazaki, you can talk about Anno as well. Anno's like super depressed after making Evangelion. Okay, like
Evangelion that's working on Evangelion are depressed.
But chill, like it's just a show. Like people are just so obsessed and in love with their creations that even they're like, stop trying to fetishize it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really sad to see that they're so out of it. And I think that's why I'm excited for well, this is a weird plug, but like Anno's new Ultraman movie. He's such a huge Ultraman fan that he finally gets to make it. Right? So he's trying to like run away and kind of make a name for himself and not be known as the Eva guy, but I'm sure that, you know, when, you know, on his deathbed, he'll be known as that guy who made Eva.
On his tombstone, the Eva guy.
And I think that's some kind of existential crisis that he must overcome himself, whereas the fans are just going to keep barraging him with it, right? So,
yeah.
So that is a lot of information, guys. So for you guys that are tuning in, again, thank you guys for tuning in. We're approaching the near end of the show, and I have a couple of questions for these guys. I think it's going to be a fun one. Well, first off, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you guys for attending, both Derek and Hayden here. Can you tell us a little bit about where we could find you guys, where you guys most active, and things to check out?
So Derek and I are part of Vampla, which is Vancouver Gunpla, and it's like a portmanteau word for Vancouver and Gunpla, and we're a local group here, and we have our own Discord server. It's, I don't know, I'll give Ariel the link or something maybe later.
We'll post it on the comments.
Yeah,
on that.
Yeah.
And
but we're on voice chat a lot, and if you guys want to like have some conversations and have questions or complaints, you can come in and we could talk about it. But yeah, Derek doesn't have social media, I don't think.
No, I tend to stay away from that.
That's my Linus Tech Tip transition here. But yeah, my Instagram is hey_BC. I also have a YouTube channel. I think I'll have a video out this weekend, but I just build. And then I just show off like what I do and stuff like that.
You just build and dominate.
Yeah, dude, definitely. Yeah, so it's hey, just hey, and just type in hey Gundam on YouTube. You'll find my video. Yeah.
And also, guys, check out Vanpla and all that stuff. Final question for everybody. I think this is going to be a fun one. If you were
Roundtable.
Yeah, it's going to be a roundtable. It's going to be a roundtable discussion. It's going to be a fun question. In the beginning, we started off with, you know, describe 0079 Mobile Suit Gundam, the series, horribly. I want you to give me your best elevator pitch of why this show is amazing. Why, like, I want you guys to put this thing in the highest pedestal. We're gonna do this fun little game. Let's start with someone fun here. Who's fun? Let's go with Hayden. What do we got? Sell me 0079.
It's I don't. I was gonna say, okay, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Carrie Fisher says Star Wars like it's a show about family, but like it's not. But I think that Gundam is a show about humanity, and it's about family in you know and growing up with you know siblings, and if you ever have something or like close family, you can closely relate to watching Gundam, even though it could be about robots and stuff like that. It's not really about the robots, it's about the people and the circumstances that they're given, and it has every broad range of human emotion ever in that show in Mobile Suit Gundam. So I think it's one of my favorites for sure. So yeah,
Okay, the bar is set.
Yeah, that's it. Like, leave some for us.
Let's go
you
with
said
John.
you could go first, dude.
I mean, like
Yeah, that's
that'd be
right.
like an 8.5 for me, right there.
That's a solid 9 for me.
Yeah.
I don't have a thing, but like that's a solid 9.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you're on next. What do we got?
So, I believe that 0079 is the pioneer of a generation of a movement of big robots, cool big robots, and it's a story about that unveils the spectrum of it's not black and white, and it unveils that there's a spectrum of good and evil, and each sides are good in their own perspective, and nobody's truly evil. They're truly trying to accomplish good for themselves, but sometimes like there's conflicts in between because we don't agree, right? A disagreement does not mean bad, and I think that's what we can get from 0079 is that it's you can learn from both sides that Char will prevail.
Okay, all right.
Not in Char's counterattack.
I'm gonna give that one an 8.5 because it was very lengthy. He got a little bit teary eye on that one, so 8.5 on me on that one.
I give that a teary eye out of 10.
For me there. A little bit explain and grab me more.
Oh man. Okay, so speaking of grab me more, Derek, you're on deck. What do we got?
Fuck. All right. If you are the person that's tired of the same old stories, if you are tired of that same old good and evil, and you want a good space opera that I would say restores your faith in humanity rather than destroys it. Akin to, like, I would say Gundam would be up there in terms of the humanity as Star Trek, where you can pop in one of the episodes. I'm pretty sure there's one episode for everybody that you can watch that will restore your faith in humanity. And this is the show for it, right? Nice. Just like as Star Trek does. It covers the full spectrum of what it is, what it is to be human, what it is to grow from a child to an adult. You're taking on that journey. And that journey is common for everybody, right? And so that's why Gundam holds a very, very special place in my heart, right next to Star Trek.
Nice. Well done. Well said. 8.5 on that one. How about you guys? What do we got?
It's pretty good. I'll give that a 9.
9? Solid 9?
Yeah.
All right.
Solid 9.
Awesome.
It wasn't a perfect 10 because people hear Star Trek and they're like, oh, fuck.
Oh, no, I'm never going to do this.
Nowadays, it's like, oof.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me give this a shot. So, privileged white guy steals daddy's new whip. That was the beginning.
Yeah. No, we talk about emotions now. That's the trend.
Oh, I know.
Feeling
Everybody's
that.
emotion. You guys are too what do you call it? Too real. If I was a sales pitch this one, awesome adventure. Remember when you were a kid and you wanted to just turn everything off, get into a world, immerse yourself? Because like Gundam immerses you right away. You know who the bad guys are. You know who the good guys are. You have this amazing fight against all odds scenario. You're in a ragtag type of group. You're making stories and adventures along that. You never know if they're gonna be dead in the next episode or whatever. But the story focuses on positivity, teamwork, family that you guys all touch base upon. Cool mecha for me. If I grew up in that era and I saw this really cool action sequence between robots, I love robots. I love mecha, and you guys know that. I'm hooked. And if for anyone who has want to experience being a child again to relive an adventure story, Gundam 0079, amazing story on that one. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Very
Good,
Nice.
good.
Please get out of my house now, sir. I can't be a traveling salesman and walk into my house like this.
Yeah, solid.
Solid.
I'm just trying to feed my family.
You got a solid 8 from Derek. John, what do you got?
Yeah, another 8.
8, Hayden.
Yeah, I would buy the Blu-ray if you had it in your suitcase. Yeah, I think I would. I'll be like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, let's get out of my house.
Means a solid 10 from Alf because he just gave you.
I know,
Yeah,
right? I'll
yeah,
live with
yeah.
that. One solid sale, one closure is good enough for me. Okay, we're gonna close this episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight, everybody on YouTube and Facebook. Hopefully, we got your chats and your questions in there. Lots of comments on that. Thank you to our guest Hayden and Derek.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you guys.
It's always
Thanks
fun.
for coming.
Yeah.
Awesome. And just gonna do a few words for our sponsor. This show is powered by MSMN Studio. Check them out, guys. MSMNstudio.com for your model kits, materials, tools, and everything else related to it. John, I need to get a better sales pitch on this one because I'm really.
Oh, it's pretty
kinda
good.
struggling.
It's pretty good.
Check them out. Check them out. Also, guys, at USA Gundam Store, check them out if you're also looking for model kits, materials, and all sorts of fun mecha stuff. Check them out. You can use my discount code AOMecha10 at usagundamstore.com. Also, don't forget to check out our community over at Side 6, facebook.com/groups/Side 6. We're always having fun conversation. We have an event right now. It's a group build, and it's called the Epic Adventure. Check that out. And also AO Mecha Live, tuning in this Saturday, feature builder episode with Lincoln Wright. Amazing builder, creator, author, content creator, tutor, tutorials, lots of stuff. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna chat with him for a bit. And yeah. So guys, that is it for the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And hope you guys are having a good good Thursday. Oh, we got the shirt going.
I had to show this. I just had to
I
show this.
gotta properly say you can do it, Amuro.
I'm a little
Awesome
Yeah.
stuff. All right, guys, why don't you say bye to everybody, and we will sign off from here.
all right. Bye.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
All right, I'm just gonna play our